there were 27 projects that were deferred. And of those 27, 7 were either completed in 2020 or deferred out past the original deferral dates that were discussed back in May of 2020. So as council can see, none of the projects were eliminated, and all were captured in the district's budgeting process during the year. So that concludes my report, and it just provide council with that information that they were looking for.
Good, thank you. That's good news. Any questions, council? I guess not. So if I could have someone bring forward the recommendation, please, to receive this for information. Oh, there's a couple of them actually. Oh no, pardon me. I'm looking at the wrong one. Councillor Holmes, thank you.
I'll move that we receive the 2020 Deferred Capital Projects Report for information.
Thank you, Councillor Holmes, seconded by Councillor Van Elfen. Any further discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Carries, thank you. 7.3 procurement policy updates for Dana.
Hello, good afternoon. Thank you, Your Worship. So as you are aware, this council adopted a new procurement policy about 1 year ago. And over the last year, we've just been assessing how well the policy is fit with the organization and whether there were any areas that needed clarification or improvement, or areas where maybe it was creating undue work for our staff just in terms of paperwork. So a couple of minor changes are being proposed, just providing some clarity around the definitions for the terms manager and changing the term director to senior manager. Providing a definition for authorized employee, just to clarify how the authorization should be documented, and also increasing the potential authority limit for authorized employees. Right now it's capped at 1,000, but we're proposing increasing it to 2,500, as it was found that a lot of the trades were unable to make routine purchases and would have to go back and forth between a store and works in order to purchase kind of routine equipment that they need for their work. With that said, we can still have lower limits. So an administrative position, for example, might only be delegated up to $500 for things like office supplies. And then we also just clarified the signing officer roles by pointing back to the Municipal Signing Authority Policy 200.7, as well as clarified a couple of exemptions to the policy just to better align with trade agreements and current practices. And that's a summary of the changes.
Thank you, Dana. Any questions of Dana? Okay, could I have someone bring forward the recommendation, please? Councillor Van Elfen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The council receives the procurement policy updates report dated February 8, 2021 from the manager of procurement and contract administration for information, and that council policy number 200.06 procurement policy be amended as attached to the report of the manager of procurement and contract administration dated February the 8th, 2021.
Thank you. Seconder? Councillor Barkwell. Any further discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, that carries. Thank you. Thanks, Dana. Thank you. Okay, on to 7.4, Summerland Community Recreation and Health Center feasibility study for the aquatic/recreation portion. I will first ask this to be introduced by Graham Statt.
Thank you, Your Worship. So council will recall that the consultants from Carskadden presented to council on the 25th of January. And at that time, council directed staff to come back to get council's direction on the scope of the project and next steps. So that's what we're doing today. And in a moment, Lori will walk us through the staff recommendations regarding the scope of the project. We also need confirmation from council as to what the key locations are for locating the proposed site. And finally, we wish to confirm with council if we are focused on rebuilding a new structure, which was the recommendation of Stantec in the original 2018 property condition assessment. Once council direction is received, the next steps will be for the feasibility study and the site fit study. Finally, I want to highlight that the primary care portion of the project will come back to council on the 22nd of February as a steering committee still doing their work on that item. However, it is still very much in consideration given the present needs of the community regarding primary care. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Lori for her presentation.
Thank you, CAO Scott. I'm just going to share my screen here. Can you see that okay? Great. Thank you. As the CAO has mentioned in his opening, the purpose of this report is to gain direction from council to confirm the scope of work to include in the feasibility and site fit study for the new aquatic and recreation facility. Staff are seeking input from council for the aquatics and recreation component of this project now, and will be returning to the February 22nd council meeting to discuss the primary healthcare center component of the project. As you can see from the project timeline, we are now focusing in on the next 3 milestones. Our target is to have all the information we need and a process in place for a referendum in October 2022. Just a quick update on the primary healthcare center. A subcommittee of the project steering committee have been meeting to gather additional information around their vision for a primary healthcare center in Summerland. The group needed a little extra time to consult with health professionals and collect some additional data, but they'll be coming back with information compiled through the Division of Family Practice, which will include local healthcare challenges and needs, proposed partners and roles, potential funding opportunities, proposed facility ownership and operational concepts, considerations to include in a feasibility study and a business case, and building assumptions and space requirements, which may result in a reduction in the original proposed facility size. The committee members recognize the benefits of separating the project for the next phases of work and realize that the two projects could end up coming together at a later date, and they support the consultant's recommendation to separate from the aquatic recreation facility process. So looking at the feasibility and site fit study for aquatics and recreation, which would be led by a consulting team, and it is proposed to include concept options and more detailed designs of various building layouts, and this would be based on the scope confirmed by council today. Investigation and options to clarify any of the maybe have enhancements, phasing strategies for any future haves, investigation of proposed sites to complete a site fit study, including zoning, parking, phasing, fit, and connections, a process to reach consensus on a preferred design option and site location, stakeholder engagement, public open house, Class C cost estimates, phasing and demolition options at the existing facility, and a recommendation for a referendum process and package materials. And discussion will also take place at that time if it still makes sense to have the referendum question to coincide with the October 2022 election, or if an alternative time frame or process is deemed more appropriate. Before we confirm the proposed locations for the site fit study and whether or not to consider including renovation or expansion of the existing Summerland Aquatic and Fitness Center, I am proposing council first discuss the core program and enhancements to include in the scope of work, and that we work through each component and get council direction as we move through each section. So Madam Mayor, does that seem like a reasonable process to go through?
Yes, it does.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
As a refresher, it is noted in the needs assessment report, when reviewing opportunities, things to consider in decision-making include: what is the project scope that is appropriate for the community and the size of Summerland? Does the project address the key needs and gaps in the community? What are the capital costs, operation costs, and revenue opportunities? What are the enhancements that bolster the chance of a successful referendum, which ensures the community needs are met should the project move forward? And what opportunities are there for separating the enhancements and core program onto different sites? The needs assessment report indicates the preferred enhancements could be categorized as must-haves, maybe-haves, and future-haves. A must-have are enhancements that could be considered part of the core program and are included in the design and construction. It may be that council identifies that there are no enhancements that meet the criteria of must-haves. Maybe-haves are enhancements that could not be eliminated or deferred outright and require further investigation before a final decision is made. And future-haves are enhancements that will likely be deferred or phased, but should be planned for in the design of the first phase of the project with the potential of future construction. As per the consultant's needs assessment report, they have outlined their recommended core program for the new facility, which includes a 6-lane pool, a leisure pool, family hot tub, 3 change rooms, sauna or steam room, staffing areas and mechanical spaces, a fitness center, an activity group fitness room, a multi-purpose program room, and admin and support spaces. It is the staff recommendation to include these items in the feasibility study, and staff is seeking council's direction on this prior to moving on to the enhancements. So I will pause here for council direction.
Okay, Councillor Barkwell.
Yeah. When you speak of a fitness center, I'm wondering the scale and cost of a fitness center, because I don't particularly see a fitness center as being a must-have when it's the sort of thing that is provided by the private sector. So if we have a limited amount of money we can spend, I'm just wondering how much it's anticipated that the fitness center would cost and the scale of or scope of it.
Thank you, Councillor Barkwell. Through the chair, if you want me to look that up, I can look through the needs assessment report to report on that. I can say that the fitness center is a very popular component of a recreation facility, and is a common best practice or industry standard in recreation facilities. But if it is council's choice to eliminate that component, we certainly can do that.
Thank you. While you're doing that, Lori, I'll ask Councillor Carlson.
A fitness center is not, in my opinion, an optional item. If you're going to build a recreation and fitness facility, it's a core piece of pretty much every facility I've ever seen. I think that Summerland has one because it was fought for back in the late 1990s, early 2000s. It was in place and it's been well received and much needed.
Anybody else on the fitness center? Councillor Holmes.
Not on the fitness center. I have a different question.
Okay, we'll go through them in order that they're being presented. We'll just, if you could just wait for a moment, Councillor Holmes, and then
Okay,
Lori is searching the information for Councillor Barkwell.
Okay, when you get to the admin space, you can ask me.
Okay, perfect. That's good to know that. Councillor Van Elfen?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have to agree with Councillor Carlson, but also the fact that the fitness center goes hand in hand with the aquatic center. It's all part of wellness and rehab, that type of situation where people use the fitness facility to, work on different issues, and they use the pool for other issues, but it all goes hand in hand, in my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Lori, do you have an answer? Okay, and then I'll come to you, Councillor Trainer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The square footage of the fitness center is 2,500 square feet. So I'd have to do the math to calculate what the reduction would be, but that is the size.
And we have a per square foot calculation, right?
Yeah, and the
Value?
total square footage is core area looks like 26,850.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Trainer, and then back to Councillor Van Elfen.
Yeah, I'd like to echo what Councillor Van Elfen said, that I think a fitness center is absolutely necessary. A lot of people use a fitness center and then they go and use the pool afterwards. And I think that we really need to remember that we need to keep a long-term vision for this new facility. If we're going to build it, it's going to hopefully last us for 40 to 50 years. And so we need to think about that. And I think a fitness center is an absolute component in building this.
Thank you, Councillor Trainer. Councillor Van Elfen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Question through to Lori, if I may. Your square footage that you're quoting, is that larger or smaller than what we have today existing?
Specifically to the fitness center, it is larger. I believe it's about 700 square feet larger.
Thank you.
Lori, are you able to speak to council? Oh, sorry. Did you want to say something, Graham, and along those lines?
You're on mute.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and others. I wanted to just also, for the benefit of council, herald back to the report in terms of the public consultation element regarding the fitness center. And it says in section 2.1.4, fitness center was the second most frequent response for what was missing or in need of expansion, and was ranked the highest in importance at 4.3 out of 5 on all the items referenced. So just for edification of council on that point as well.
Thank you. I forgot my, I was going to ask, it doesn't matter. Councillor Barkwell, you had your hand up again.
Yeah, I was just wondering, would what about is there any idea of what the cost of equipping the fitness center would be, other than this general square foot price overall? Because I mean, it doesn't seem relevant to its particular aspect. If we were to get down to what we must have and what we can afford and everything like that, I just wondered if we had that number, what we could save by not including a smaller fitness center or something that. Or is that information we'll get later after more detailed design?
I'll go to Lori and then Councillor Van Elfen.
I did the math on 700 square feet, and it's 1.75 million for the fitness center. based on square footage, if I'm doing the math correctly, but I am not a math person.
Thank you, Lori. Maybe. Councillor Van Alphen?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Equipment-wise, we have a fitness room today that is fully equipped. And I'm sure that equipment's not going to go in the trash. It'll be transferred over to a new facility because the equipment is in pretty darn good shape, most of it anyways. So there might be some additions, but we're not going to recreate the wheel. I would not think. Thank you.
Okay, if there isn't, are there any more questions about the fitness center component of the core? Karen, I'm looking to you for guidance on this. Can we just have a kind of an informal vote on whether or not it's a must-have? I guess I'd phrase it as a must-have, and then we'll see what the vote, or how should I do this?
Madam Mayor, I'm happy to take a recommendation after each discussion.
Okay, great, thank you. That's actually perfect for the record too. So is there anybody on council that would like to bring forward a recommendation, must have or not? Councillor Traynor?
Sorry, do you want something for each one? Or
no, we're going to go through them individually. So Councillor Traynor, if you would like to bring forward a recommendation for just the fitness center portion, then that's what I'm asking for.
Yes, I will do that. That we keep it in the core program, so it's a must-have.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Carlson. Thank you. Any further discussion on this? Okay, I'll call the question then. All in favor? And any opposed? Councillor Barkwell is opposed. Okay, thank you. So now, Lori, I guess we're on to the second component.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And to confirm, the council direction is the entire core program is included in the feasibility study.
I thought, my understanding is that we were going through each of these individually.
So the first area to provide staff direction on would be the core program. And so if this is all included, I'll move on to the enhancements.
No, sorry, we haven't gotten that far yet. Sorry, my my understanding and what I heard Councillor Traynor say, based on what we heard, was that we would go through them individually. So the fitness center, well, the aquatics is a must-have. The fitness center is a must-have, and then we have yet to discuss the other three. Is that the question that you're asking?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, so the core program includes the aquatics. So all the items listed on the screen there for aquatics, the fitness center, an activity group fitness room, multi-purpose room, and admin and support spaces.
Yes.
So if we're confirming that all those are in the feasibility study, if we could get council direction on that before I move on to the enhancements.
Yes, that's exactly right. So far we have a must-have for the aquatics and a must-have for this fitness center. And then now we're going on to the activity/group fitness room. Okay. Is that sorry, I must have messed up.
Okay.
Councillor Traynor.
I can make another recommendation. Do you want me to group those final three, the activity group, fitness room, multi-purpose, and admin? And I believe Councillor Holmes also had a question about the admin as well. So I won't group them.
So thank you very much. I was just going to say
okay.
that. I think that we should look at them individually, and before you bring a recommendation forward, I'd like to ask if there are any questions about the activity or group fitness room of Lori. Or any staff for that matter. Okay, I don't see any hands raised. So if you could do that then, Councillor Trainer, and individually.
Okay, so I'll bring forward a recommendation that the activity group fitness room be considered in the core program as a must-have.
Thank you. Seconder? Councillor Carlson? Any discussion on this one? All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, that's unanimous. On to the multi-purpose program room. Are there any questions on this? Councillor Patton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. What's the difference between an activity group fitness room and a multi-purpose program room? Could they not be used in the same concept? I'm just wondering.
Through Madam Mayor to Councillor Patton. The group fitness room would be a room dedicated for fitness classes like yoga and group fitness, aerobics, and would be spaced to have an appropriate floor for that and all the equipment associated with doing fitness classes. Whereas a multi-purpose room would be more of a room with a sink and could be used for arts classes and could be used for children's programs or seniors programs. It could be used as a child minding space for people to drop their kids off while they're attending a group fitness class. So these program spaces could be active at the same time.
All good, Councillor Patton?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a quick question on that.
Yes, Councillor Carlson.
Would it also then be a rental space for birthday parties and other community programs that might be run?
Yes, thank you, Councillor Carlson. Absolutely.
Any more questions about the multi-purpose program room? Councillor Trainer?
Just a comment.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
It also in the feasibility study, or not the feasibility, the needs assessment, recognized that there's a lack of that kind of space in our community, and I think that's why it's seen as a must-have. So I believe it's worth trying to do that.
Yeah, and I think that totally in agreement with you, Councillor Carlson. Especially as we're seeing increased need even in the Arts and Culture Centre for space. I think it's a good have, especially as we're moving forward. Councillor Trainer, would you be willing to bring forward that recommendation as well?
Yeah, and I just also wanted to add, you know, I don't think if you only had one room, it's pretty hard to transition from a sweaty workout fitness class to a other use for that room. If somebody's coming in after a group fitness class, it's not always nice. So I think it's really important that we have two rooms for sure. So I'll bring forward a recommendation then that the multi-purpose program room be a must-have in the core program.
Thank you. Seconder? Councillor Holmes? Further discussion on this? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, that's unanimous as well. And then admin and support spaces, Councillor Holmes.
Yeah, thank you. Just a question I probably should have asked when the consultants were here, but I'm just wondering if the admin space includes office space for the rec department, keeping in mind that the rec department is all based at the Aquatic Center right now. So is the vision that you would still be based in the new Aquatic Center? And if so, when looking at plans, is there sufficient office space for your whole department?
Thank you, Councillor Holmes. Yes, the admin and support spaces includes office space. It also includes drop-down offices. So if we wanted to have office space for our Orca swim club or for the Recope program, it has shared space for them, and space for our full-time staff here.
So just to follow up, so there's the office space is larger than where you're in now, or it's about the same?
I think there's one extra office.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions on the admin and support spaces? Okay, someone like to bring this phone forward? Councillor Holmes. Oh, I guess you're not going to read that. It's a must-have.
Oh yeah, I'll bring forward as a must-have.
Thank you. Seconder, Councillor Van Elfen. Any further discussion on this? I think by having that one extra office, we're looking at you know, long-term. We're having that long-term view. I think that's a good idea. Okay, I'll call the question. Anyone? Sorry, all in favor? Any opposed? Okay, that carries unanimously. Okay, so you've got what you originally asked for, Lori, core program.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So we'll move over to project enhancements next. And the first one is to consider an 8-lane competition pool. As per the reasons provided by the consultant in his needs assessment presentation, staff also recommend that with the addition of a leisure pool, a 6-lane pool is a suitable size for Summerland, and we are seeking council direction on that. I do have the pros and cons that the consultant provided on January 25th, if you'd like me to review those for you, but otherwise I will pass it back to you for discussion and direction.
Okay, would it be helpful, council, to have that rather than try and find it in the document? The pros and cons? I'm not seeing any reaction. Councillor Carlson.
I think if you've got it there, it would be really helpful, especially for anyone who might want to watch what's going on and listen along with us that may have missed the last meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Carlson. I agree. So, Lori, if you could present the pros and cons, please.
Sure. So in support of an 8-lane pool, this enhancement did receive general support from the community through the community engagement process. The enhancement was requested by swim clubs for competitions. This will accommodate provincial and regional competitions and attract families to Summerland for events. It will provide a sports tourism economic benefit to the community. There will be more water for lessons, laps, and classes. And as the consultant mentioned, it's quite challenging to add lanes later. A pool built today will likely remain for the next 30 years. So if you are looking to have an 8-lane pool in the future, building it now is an appropriate strategy. And in support of a 6-lane pool, there is an added capital cost to build the additional 2 lanes. There is added operational costs that will likely outweigh any capital benefits from the water from rentals and competitions for the additional 2 lanes. There are already 3 8 to 10 lane pools in the Okanagan, which may compete for the chance to hold competitions. And because of those 3 8 to 10 lane pools in the Okanagan, they are convenient for competitions for residents in Summerland to attend. With the addition of a leisure pool, it will reduce the pressure of the proposed 6-lane pool, leaving it more available for laps, classes, lessons that are currently experienced. The size of water recommended, including in the 6-lane pool, is appropriately sized for a community of the size of Summerland, and the added water is not expected to significantly change the ability for residents to access the pools when they want to. And finally, the 6-lane pool may allow for a better site fit on available properties or better allow for other enhancements to happen on that site.
Good, thank you, Lori. Any questions? Councillor Carlson.
I'm not sure if it's a question, it's maybe more of a comment. This one's a bit hard because right now, the only thing that people, other than going for a walk, the only thing that people can do during COVID is, fortunately, go to our rec center, use the pool, use the fitness facility, participate. My understanding is that there's people coming from Peachland, West Kelowna, Penticton, Caledon, Oliver, all kinds of areas up and down the valley to use our swimming pool because it's available and everyone's welcome to use it. I know all of this study and all of this conversation has been happening during COVID times. I guess my fear is that we won't build a big enough pool for not only a growing population in the Okanagan and in Summerland, but for if we end up in a situation like this again. And that being a pandemic or a time where travel is restricted such that a lot of the people who would generally go down to warm places.
Sorry, we missed the last little bit. Councillor Carlson, you went on to mute. I don't know how that happened.
I don't know.
There we go.
My screen just went black. So I guess the concern is if there's another opportunity and people aren't able to go down south and do all the things they like to do in wintertime, so they have to stay home, how much are we going to increase our demand on these facilities? Is that a real fear? Does it matter? Have we even considered that? And would 2 extra lanes in the pool have an impact on that at all? I know those are a lot of big questions to be asking and it's a complicated one, but I would really hate to see us build a 6-lane pool and then regret that we didn't build an 8-lane pool because we see, if I live in West Kelowna or someone lives in West Kelowna, it's going to be just as fast for them to get to the Summerland pool when it's a brand new swanky facility as it is for them to get to H2O in Kelowna. So I just think we need to consider those things as we're going through this process.
Thank you, Councillor Carlson. Councillor Barkwill.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would just point out that 2 extra lanes, I think in the budget was an extra $2.8 million. So that's a lot of money to spend for whatever temporary additional swimming there might be during COVID or another COVID-like event, or for people from West Kelowna to come down and use our pool. The other thing I would point out here is that Penticton just recently built a 10-lane pool for their population, which is what, 30,000, 33,000. So that's about 3,300 people per lane. So if we have 6 lanes and did the same ratio, we'd be building for a population of 18,000, which we don't have yet. And I presume Penticton's new lane also anticipated that it would be good for some time into the future. So that ratio could maybe go to, say, 4,000 per lane or 5 before Penticton does another pool. And maybe that's where we would be too, with a population of, say, 24,000. So I think in terms of the population per lane, we're doing quite well here.
Thank you, Councillor Barkwill. Councillor Holmes.
Yeah, when you look at the consultant's report and the swims per year ratio, we're already very much higher in compared to other places in the province and the valley with the 6 lanes. And I think we need to recognize is that people's recreational interests have really become diverse in the last 40 or 50 years. so that it's not just people just don't swim and skate anymore. They do all kinds of different things, things that 40 years ago people couldn't have even imagined would have existed. So I don't think, not mention anything like pickleball, but I don't think, I think 6, for all the reasons the consultant states in the report, I think 6 lanes is what will meet the needs of our community.
Councillor Trainer.
I really struggled with this one because, again, I'm really trying to think long term. I'm trying to think what we're going to need in 20 years. And like the last thing, again, that we want to think about is, oh, we should have done that. But the reality is that we have to pay for it now. So I think 6 lanes is fine. And I think I asked the consultant what other communities of a similar size in BC have been doing, and he said 6. So I think to go with 6 is safe and it's fine. And we do have other 8-lane pools in the valley. So I don't think that it's too much of a problem.
Thank you. Councillor Van Elfen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I too believe a 6-lane pool at this time is adequate, especially with conjunction with a leisure pool, which will take pressure off the lane pool. So I think 6 lane would be more than enough. Thank you.
Councillor Barkwell, do you have your hand up again, or is that left over? Oh, okay.
I
thank
just
you.
noticed it.
Oh,
Sorry about that.
Okay, not a problem. Okay, anyone else? Could I ask for someone to bring forward a recommendation on whether or not to include this? Councillor Trainer.
I'll move that we go forward with the 6-lane pool as recommended.
Thank you. Councillor Van Elfen, are you seconding that? Good, thank you. Karen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm just wondering if it would be clear if we could say that the competition pool enhancement for an additional 2 lanes from 6 to 8 be eliminated from the feasibility and site study.
And that's why you're our corporate officer. You're okay with that, are you, Councillor Trainer?
Yes, that's exactly what I.
Yes, we know that's what you meant. Thank you, Karen. And Marty, you're good with that, I presume. Thank you. Any further discussion on this? I'll call the question. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, that's unanimous as well. Okay, Lori.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So next, looking at the opportunity for childcare space. The early indicators of the South Okanagan Childcare Study is that there are shortages of childcare space in all communities, including Summerland. The final study is targeted to be completed at the end of March or early April. The consultant is recommending that this enhancement is a maybe have and has developed costing for a facility which would accommodate 37 spaces. Staff recommend that the childcare space is included in the feasibility study and that considerations around size and for what ages are incorporated after the childcare study has been completed. Staff also recommend that consideration for a phased build option be included in the feasibility study. By considering phasing, the childcare space could be included in the detailed design with the option to build within initial construction or constructed at a later date, but there would be appropriate land availability identified and future building connections considered. So I will pause now.
Thank you. Councillor Holmes.
Yeah, thank you. Could I just ask, I guess generally, when we say something is to be included in the feasibility study, exactly what does that mean? Does it mean, does it look at funding, potential funding for building some of these add-ons, enhancements? And also, what does it mean in terms of the location and the site fit study? So if you if we include all these enhancements in the feasibility study, does that mean, you know, at the location with the all enhancements means that that location wouldn't be feasible, but it would be feasible if you just had if you didn't have as many enhancements? Maybe you'll be getting to that, but I'm a little bit concerned about how that's all going to work.
Thank you, Councillor Holmes, through Madam Mayor. So that for the components that are included in the feasibility study, they will be looked at on how they would fit on the site. So when we look at, for example, the childcare space, it would be considered and it would be part of the feasibility study to see the costing implications of the build, where it could fit, if it could be phased in, you know, how it would fit that way, and the feasibility considerations around building it and operating it. Now, looking at funding, your second question about, or your first question about funding considerations, at this point, the feasibility study typically doesn't go out and look for funding sources. It might note where you could apply, but they would be building a feasibility study so that you could have a comprehensive plan that would be included in the application process for grant applications in the future.
Okay, so if I just follow up, so we could look at the feasibility study, and we have these enhancements, and they say, okay, well, but they'll be phased building. So, and the building, the project with all the enhancements that we want won't fit on location A, but they would fit on location B. So that's where we'll put location B. But if sometime down the road that we never do the phases, and it could have gone, the core project could have gone on location A, which was a better location for that if it was just that core project. So we could end up in that kind of situation.
We could, but that information would be coming back to council. All that information would be what could fit on the site, and then you could make a decision of what your preferred site is once you have all that information.
Right. Okay. Thank you very much.
Any other questions? Councillor Barkwell, and then Councillor Patton.
First, I'll take my hand down so I don't forget. Lower hand. I guess I understand Councillor Holmes' concerns there. I don't know if there is any answer. We'll just have to make some of those hard decisions. But I also really like this approach that has been presented for this item, because I think that funding for daycare might be a different area altogether at a different application. Maybe we'll be able to do it both with this overall project, and if we don't get that funding, then we don't build it. But the federal government and the provincial government have been promising funding for daycare for so many years. I actually think that it might be coming to fruition, but maybe not right away. So this will, leave us with the great location and the design to, if funding becomes available in the future, to tack it on. So it really does, I think, keep our options open for something that I think is a real possibility for the future. My comment?
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Barkwell. I'd just like to add to your comment or concur with it. I think this is one of the valuable pieces that, we've made that, we've had those conversations already with the province a couple of times, with Minister Katrina Chen, or Parliamentary Secretary, or I can't really remember, or a Minister of State, Katrina Chen. So, I think that is, it's good that we've done that work ahead of time. And I also agree with you on the appeal to having this phased approach and waiting to see what we get in terms of the responses coming back in the childcare needs assessment. And Lori, I think you said end of March. Did you say end of March? Yeah.
I will have a copy of the report by the end of March, and then it will likely be
Okay.
presented sometime in April.
Okay, so that's good. That's not really too far off. So yeah, those are my comments. Anyone else? Councillor, oh, I'm sorry. I jumped in ahead of you. I apologize for that, Councillor Patton. Please go
No.
ahead.
Oh, thanks, Madam Mayor. Do we currently, above the arena, is that a facility right now for daycare that through the district?
Thank you, Councillor Patton. We have a program running out of that space in the arena banquet room. It's a preschool program that runs 2 mornings a week. It is not a licensed daycare.
Thank you. If I may, Madam Mayor, does the district have any space right now for licensed daycare?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Not that I'm aware of.
Thank you.
Councillor Carlson and then Van Elfen.
I was just going to comment that we own the building that Little Chicks Daycare is run out of, but we don't actually, other than lease it to them, I don't believe we have any responsibility to that daycare.
Thank you. Councillor Van Elfen.
Same comment. Thank you.
Anyone else? Anyone care to bring forward a recommendation? Councillor Carlson.
I would then move that we include the childcare space in the feasibility study, consider phasing and determine the size after the childcare study is completed.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Van Elfen, you're seconding. Thank you. Any further discussion on this? Councillor Patton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Could we also have in there available funding so that it's going to be linked to whether it's federal or provincial monies that are coming in and not going to be borne by the taxpayer?
I'll defer to Karen on this, but it seems to me that that would apply for virtually all components. We're going to be looking for grant funding for all components, I would think.
We are, except this is going to be a phased component of the core program. So it would be, if it wasn't, it's going to be looked through the feasibility study, which is going to be separately from the main core program, so that if, since it is phased, that our funding that, it's like any other grant opportunity that we look at where it doesn't proceed if we don't get the grant monies to actually do it. So I'm just thinking out loud. Thanks.
Okay, no, that's fine.
So, Madam Mayor?
Thank you, Karen.
Yeah, sorry. We've already had a mover and a seconder for the motion, I believe. Yeah, so if Councillor Patton would like to introduce an amendment and we can vote on the amendment.
Thank you, Karen. You know what? No, I'm good. I was just speaking out loud, and then it dawned on me that we wouldn't move forward with anything unless we got the grant monies available anyway. So no, I'm good. Thank you so much.
Okay. Okay. Any other discussion on this? Okay, so the motion is to include in the feasibility study, consider phasing and determine the size after the childcare study is completed, which we expect to have by April. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, that carries unanimously as well. Okay, it is a couple of minutes before 4, so we will need a motion to carry on the meeting beyond 4 o'clock. Is there anybody, Councillor Holmes, and could you give us a time frame, please?
Well, I don't think we're going to get through the agenda regardless. So
Yes, yeah, please do give us a time frame.
till 5 o'clock.
Thank you. Seconder, Councillor Carlson, all in favor? Okay, none opposed. Thank you. Okay, Lori, let's continue on, see how far we can get in an hour here.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to the gymnasium enhancement. The consultants indicated that the engagement process clearly noted the need for greater community access to a gymnasium for a variety of recreational and sport needs. While improved access to the 2 elementary school gymnasiums is an opportunity, access to the larger middle school and high school gymnasiums are limited and are inconsistent outside of the summer months. The staff recommendation is to include the gymnasium in the feasibility study with an option to consider a phased-in build. Staff can continue to seek out more information around improved access to school gymnasiums and the suitability of the elementary school gym for sports. As with the proposed phased-in build for the childcare space, the gymnasium could be included in the detailed design with the option to build within initial construction or constructed at a later date with the appropriate land availability identified and future building connections considered. Thank you.
Questions or comments on the enhancements for the gymnasium? Councillor Barkwell.
Does anybody have off the top of their head what the budget for the gymnasium was, or is it just in the overall square footage number that Lori referred to earlier when we were talking about the fitness center?
No, it's a separate component, I think. Lori, you have that there?
Yes, 5.5 million.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Anyone else? Councillor Van Elfen. I saw you take your, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Gymnasium, I'd like to put it out. Have included the feasibility study and considered phasing.
Thank you. So I missed the first part of that. You're making that recommendation. Is that correct?
That's correct, Madam Mayor.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. And a seconder? Councillor Holmes. Further discussion or comment? I will call the question. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, that carries unanimously as well.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Moving on to the final enhancement, which is the tennis center. The consultants indicated that the tennis center ranked significantly lower than the other enhancements in both public surveys as a community need and recommend, should council see this as a priority, that it be considered as a separate project. The staff recommendation is that the tennis center is not included in the feasibility study, but rather engage with school district when they look to replace the Summerland Secondary School tennis courts after they've completed their school gymnasium replacement project. As that construction project will compromise their courts, they will need to replace the tennis courts in the future.
Okay, thoughts on this? Councillor Barkwell, you've unmuted yourself. Did you want to speak? Nope. Okay. Anyone? Okay, could I have someone bring forward a recommendation, please? Councillor Van Elfen, thank you.
I'll be the bad guy. Tennis center, Defer, do not include in feasibility study, consider opportunities when SSS tennis courts are replaced.
You're not being a bad guy. Thank you for bringing that forward. Councillor Barkwell, are you seconding that? Thank you. Further discussion on this? Well, I'd like to say that the possibility of looking at an opportunity when the high school tennis courts are replaced, which I have no idea when that will be, but they're looking kind of sad these days. I think that is a good possibility. I don't recall hearing that before, so thank you. Any further discussion? Councillor Van Elfen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Well, not being a tennis player, but I could see the absolute benefit of a facility like this in our community. I think it would attract more, tourism than, a possible 8-lane pool, in the future. But it's definitely an interesting idea. It's a great concept, and I wish we had all the extra money in the world to do this, but I don't think right now is going to be the time. But I think it's definitely something that should be considered in the future. I think it's got a lot of potential. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Van Elfen. Okay, I will call the question on the tennis center enhancement. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, that carries unanimously as well.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Moving on to site locations. The staff recommendation is to complete a feasibility and site fit study for new construction on 2 sites. The first one is the existing Summerland Aquatic and Fitness Center site, which is on School District 67 property. And it would involve engagement with the school district, site layout options, which consider upcoming construction of the new school gymnasium, site layout options, which consider if a new facility could be built prior to demolition of the existing facility, or if demolition would be required prior to construction, impacts to school operations and parking. And the second recommended location is the Summerland Arena site, which is District of Summerland owned property and would involve site layout considerations, opportunities with the youth center and the daycare center that are on the site, potential synergies with the arena, which could include shared energy opportunities, considerations of neighboring buildings, and parking. So with that, I am seeking council direction if there are any additional sites that council would like included in the site fit study, and whether these 2 sites are supported. Thank you.
Thank you, Laurie. Any questions of Laurie? To start with, Councillor Barkwell.
This might be an off-the-wall suggestion, but when staff are looking at the arena site, maybe we own that really long, skinny lot that runs sort of a east-west right beside the Builders Mart, and perhaps there could be some kind of a land trade done if you need to take a little bit off the lot immediately to the north. I'm not sure the lot lines here and the ownership and stuff, but that long skinny lot that we own to the north of the Timber Mart there is not really terribly usable, and so there could be some reconfiguration that is within the realm of possibility here. So I'll just point that out to staff who might not be aware, and to consider it, or if you're a few feet short one way, maybe there could be some land trading.
Councillor Barkwell, do you know who owns that land?
Which one are you referring to? Like, we
The one
own
that
this-
you were just talking about.
We do. The district of Summerland owns that long, and we lease it to the Builders Mart, I believe, for their use for $3,000 a year or some small amount. And
Okay.
and then there's another lot. I'm looking at the Google Earth view here on the screen right now, and then there's another lot immediately to the north. Yeah, and ours is sort of in between there, I think.
The lot to the north, is that the old skate park?
Well, no,
Oh.
not that one. Maybe without the lot lines in there. Anyway, it's good enough that just to alert the staff to have a look at the lots that are there. And they might have or probably would have already, but I just want to say that some land trading might be possible there that would benefit everybody.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Barkwell. Councillor Carlson, and then Councillor Holmes.
I'll just add that I think it's a really good opportunity to look at what that arena site could be if it had other recreation associated with it, including, the Harold Simpson, perhaps a renovation and an incorporation of some kind. We know there's lots of good, well-used space in there, and perhaps there's potential for future collaboration or improvement.
Lori, and I don't know if you know, or maybe somebody on council knows, is the gym in the Harold Simpson Youth Center, is it like a standard size gym, or it's undersized? Yeah. Okay, thanks.
It does, Madam Mayor, allow for pickleball and some sport activities, but it's not a full-size gymnasium.
Too bad. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, so Lori would like to know. Oh, go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, Councillor Holmes, I had you written down. Apologies.
Yeah, I had a comment. It's just following up on Councillor Barkwell. It's neither here nor there really, but I believe that that Harold Simpson and the old skate park and the lumber yard is all one lot that's owned by the district. That's my understanding. But I mean, it's neither here nor there. It's just for information.
Okay. So Lori was looking for some direction from council on if these two site locations are what we should be looking at in the site fit study, or if there are any other spots that might be under consideration. Any comments, any thoughts? Councillor Holmes.
I certainly can't think of any other locations, so I'd bring forward these two locations for the site fit study.
Okay. Karen, could I ask you to read the recommendation that Lori spoke to earlier on in this part of the discussion?
Absolutely, Madam Mayor. That council directs staff to include the existing Summerland Aquatic and Fitness Center site and the Summerland Arena site as locations to include in the feasibility and site fit study.
Perfect, thank you. That sounds good to you, Councillor Holmes? Great. Seconder, please. Councillor Trainer. Okay, thank you, Councillor Trainer. Any further discussion? Nope, I'll call the question. All in favor? Any opposed? Good, that carries as well.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Moving on to renovation or expansion. At the January 25th council meeting, council discussed the consideration of renovating the existing Summerland Aquatic and Fitness Center or an expansion of the existing facility. Staff have pulled key information from the property condition assessment that was completed in 2018 on the Summerland Aquatic and Fitness Center for council's reference in the council report and have included the full report as an attachment document. The report notes that the original facility was constructed in 1976. All major building, mechanical, electrical, and pool systems have exceeded their expected usable life. Most of the building envelope is in poor condition with significant air and water leakage and potential for mold. The facility is consuming approximately 86% more energy per unit of floor area than the average swimming pool. Spaces have been adapted to meet increased program demands and do not function properly. Stantec's recommendation is to explore construction of a new facility 50% larger than the current facility on a new site to address the physical and program deficiencies without interruption of the current services to the community. I'd also like to highlight that the costing estimates in the 2018 property condition assessment were calculated if construction were to take place in 2018 and did not include an escalating contingency. Soft costs were calculated at 16.1% of construction costs. The 2021 needs assessment includes a 10% escalation contingency and total soft costs of 30% to reflect a total cost if construction were to take place in 2025. It is staff's recommendation to consider options in the feasibility and site fit study to rebuild the Summerland Aquatic and Fitness Center as recommended in the Stantec report. Alternatively, council may want to direct staff to include options to upgrade and/or expand the existing facility within the feasibility study. This will require an expansion of the scope of work, which will result in increased consulting costs and time. So with that, I will ask if council would like to direct staff to include an upgrade or expansion of the existing facility, or continue on with a site fit study and feasibility study for a new build. Thank you.
Okay. So we asked for this, and so now we have to make a decision. Any questions of Lori to start with? Councillor Patton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's not Lori. I went through the 2018 report from LTA yesterday, consultants. I probably spent most of my Sunday going over all the scenarios here in regards. And they brought up some very, very good points in regards to the structural of the building. The structural, the building itself is not in bad shape. There is things that have to be. Stantec did a phenomenal job in regarding going through the building and saying what was wrong, what had to be fixed, like just as a minor as renovations. The LTA report is really good also, that talks about refurbishing the old pool, and I think. I don't know. I think that we're kind of looking at a 40-year-old building and saying, oh, it's 40 years old, we got to get rid of it. It's too old, we can't do anything with it. And for me, I'm thinking, my gosh, if we did that with every old building in town, there'd be no renovations. Everybody would be tearing everything down and rebuilding new. But I think we really have to take a close look at moving into the renovation, and possibly maybe not looking at a 50%, but as the new pool or the new build construction is 83% bigger. We also have to take in mind 2018 was the biggest year in history as far as building construction and values. And Kelowna hit $1 billion in 2018. They didn't hit $1 billion in 2020. So there is a lot of difference when relate back to 2018, which was the highest construction values that we've seen. But I don't know. I'm not sure if anybody else has gone through these reports, but I truly think that it is something that we should be taking a close look at. And but that's anyways. I've said my piece. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Patton. Councillor Holmes.
Well, certainly one thing that comes to my mind is, I mean, if I remember those reports, you can't get away from the mechanical issues with the pool and the problems with there, and I think that kind of led to the decision that, well, we're better off building a new one because the technology has improved so much. But my question is, I wonder if there'd be any opportunity to repurpose that building if we did build a new pool. For example, could it be a gym? I don't know, but I would certainly think that before we just automatically make the decision to tear it down, if we build a new rec center, that there'd be we'd look at any opportunities to repurpose it.
Thank you, Councillor Holmes. Councillor Patton, and then Councillor Van Elfen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just to, in regards to this report, 5.6 million, almost 5.7 million, we're going into the pool and into mechanical. So I think even though it's 83 or 80%, 86% non-efficient now, when you invest that kind of money into new mechanical and pool systems, I think your efficiency is going to rise considerably and bring it up to anything that a new build will do for you. Thanks.
Councillor Van Elfen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I too went through the report yesterday, and I agree with what the numbers that have been thrown around, the heat loss and all these type of things that are happening today with an extensive renovation and the changing of all the mechanical components in that building. Those numbers would change drastically. If we looked at a renovation / addition, would we have more money to do future additions, and adding different components to this? Maybe we could save money on a renovation, add the leisure pool, that type of situation. I mean, I think it's advantageous to look at the renovation and expansion and see what kind of dollar value we could get, that way, and renovate this building. Because if you look at the report, it doesn't talk, it talks about replacing components in the building that need to be replaced. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Carlson, and then Councillor Barkwell.
One of the concerns I have with the conversation about renovating, I think Councillor Patton just touched on it, is that we need to expand the amount of water available for people to use, whether that's through lanes or through a leisure pool, because it's currently, as far as all the reports and the information that we have, my understanding is that we need more time for people to use that facility. And especially going forward, if we're going to have this facility for another 30 years, it needs to work for the people who are paying for it and who are using it. The same with the fitness room. Right now, the fitness room is not big enough for the use that it receives. And so I don't see here a maximum upgrade or a upgrade with expansion, because we don't know what that would look like. That could cost $30 million. So I guess my concern is just upgrading what we have right now and putting in new mechanical and trying to make it more energy efficient isn't going to solve the actual need of what it is that people want. To go back to that needs assessment, and we see that we need a leisure pool and we need a bigger fitness room. Right now we have a 6-lane swimming pool and we have a small fitness room. We don't have a multi-purpose room. We don't have that space for fitness classes. Those are all things that we need. So it's more than just a $12.5 million minimum upgrade that's required.
Councillor Barkwell, and then Councillor Holmes.
Yes, this budget here, it refers to 50% larger. I think that now that we've decided what our must-haves are, what we need to be able to answer to the public is what would the equivalent project cost if we renovated the existing pool or built new, which is the cheaper option? Because I'm going to presume that a renovated pool will be as good as new. And, you know, with all the new mechanical and such, and, you know, maybe new windows for better insulation if it's worthwhile, things like that. But so we have to be able to compare like with like, and then make a decision. And I don't think we've got that information yet. And I think it's something that people are going to be asking us.
Thank you, Councillor Barkwool. Councillor Holmes?
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind getting that information. I myself am quite skeptical when you look at replacing upgrading at 12.5 million in 2018 dollars. And if you think, then you're going to expand, and if you're going to expand to make it 83% larger in 2021 dollars, I think it's going to come to pretty close to 30 million. In which case, I think you're better off building something new. That's, you know, just my feeling. I don't really think the savings are worth that. It would be worth it. You wouldn't be any savings. I don't think there'd be much savings.
Councillor Carlson, then Trainer, then Patton.
I have a question for Lori. The actual swimming pool itself, one end is very, very shallow. People don't like doing flip turns, tiles fall off the walls, things happen. And the other end is really quite deep. I'm just wondering, when it comes to actual 6-lane pool design, would we have to renovate that as well? Would they have to, you know, actually rip up the pool and put in a new pool anyways?
Yes, absolutely. Based on the condition of our pool basin, it would have to be completely redug and retiled and built to today's standards for competition for our swim club. So right now the shallow end is not deep enough.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Councillor Trainer?
Yeah, I agree with what Councillor Holmes says. I'm really skeptical. I'm not sure that the savings are going to be all that great once it's all said and done. I think that given the amount of changes that we need to make and the expansion and the number of upgrades, I just don't know if dumping a bunch of money into an older facility is worth it. I mean, I could be wrong, but that's my feeling, and I support what staff has come forward with us or to us with, and I would support building a new facility for sure, but I'm willing to see the numbers of upgrading or expanding our current facility. I don't know how much work is involved in doing that. Maybe Lori can answer that.
Thank you, Councillor Trainer. I don't know exactly how much more it would cost to add that onto the scope of work. What I could do, if that is council's direction to investigate further, is we could put it on the in the procurement process as a value add, and we could get a quote for the base work, and then to include this additional scope of work and get an additional costing of what would be involved, and then we could come back to council before making a decision if we want to continue that in the award of the contract.
Councillor Van Elf, no, sorry, it was Councillor Patton and then Councillor Carlson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. You know what, I wholly agree with Ms. Mullen. I think that we have to be prudent to take a look at if there is cost savings towards the new by renovating the old. And if it is, then maybe we get a bigger bang for our buck and could do some of the extras because we've already got the main structures already in place. So I feel that we have it in there so we can actually determine the best decision that we can come by, whether it is to build new or if it is to renovate and expand our existing facility. Thank you so much.
Councillor Carlson?
Just a comment. I think that Councillor Patton is thinking much along the lines of many people in this community. I get it. And I think that the more information we have, as long as it can be succinct and easy to explain to people, the better chance we have of making the right decisions so that our community has what it needs going forward. I don't think that we're going to making the right decision is renovating the old pool, but I do think that, if we need to ask a few questions, we should ask a few questions, as long as it's not going to cost us thousands and thousands of dollars to find out that answer.
I have a question, Lori, and I'm not sure if you can answer this, but given that we're, well, 2 and a bit probably years from the Stantec assessment, actually, I guess I have 2 questions. If we're looking at the replacement, well, any of the numbers, how far off would they be in terms of 2020? Well, I guess 2020. No, I've got another question first. The 2021 needs assessment, the $30 million, is that the 30% cost, soft cost, does that take into consideration that we wouldn't start building, whatever it looks like, until 2023?
Madam Mayor, the 30 million is if we were to build in 2025. So there's escalation costs in there for 2025. The
Okay.
2018 condition assessment if you were to build in 2018. So you'd have to figure out what that escalation would be, which I don't know, but you can find out.
Okay, so that answers my second question too. And Graham, I saw your hand up. Did you have something to add to that?
No, I was just going to say the same thing Lori did. Thank you, Madam.
Good, thank you. And then my other question was, if we're looking, regardless of the cost, if we're looking at the 50% larger of the 2018 report and the 83% larger of the replacement now, what is the difference in terms of what we might lose? Is it just scaled down and we still have the same components as we just agreed to in the core? In the core program for the feasibility study? Or does it mean that there's a piece of that just will not be part of that? Does that make any sense, what I'm asking? Do you understand what I'm asking?
The 2018 study that said 50% was just an estimate. So that was what they came up with at the time without actually going out to the community and getting community engagement and what the needs are. So if we were to look at an expansion of the existing, and we wanted to include everything that has been reflected today to include in the core, this doesn't include the enhancements, we would be looking at 83%. But if we only wanted to have 50%, then we would have to scale back some of those core features. That makes sense.
Okay. Yeah, that does make sense. So it's not a matter of everything shrinking a little bit. It would mean that we'd have to potentially lose part of the core program. What we've just talked about for the feasibility. Is that what you're saying?
Correct, but it could be, you could take a portion of the fitness room and have it smaller. You could have a portion of the activity room and have it smaller. So it would have to scale it back if we wanted to stay with 50% larger.
Okay, got it. Graham, I saw your hand up again.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I was going to say something similar. When I was listening to the conversation earlier, I do think the concept was sort of framed in, if we take the existing shell, as it were, in the existing building and all that it is, if we add the pieces on that we now see as must-have, but use that building, so yeah, you might be expanding a piece here or knocking down a wall there, what the cost of that would be to sort of achieve the same basic core vision, but using a refurbished facility. So, I think that would be probably the key thing that we'd be looking for the consultant to look at, if it is an added on piece, because that seemed to be the question that we wanted to be able to answer to the community, is if we take the core project and use the existing facility, what would the comparative cost be, and is there indeed any savings?
Okay, thank you. Councillor Barkwell?
Yes, I was going to say exactly what our CAO said, that we have to be able to answer that question to the community. We can't just say, well, our gut said it wouldn't be worthwhile. That doesn't really satisfy people. So we, as I said before, we want to be able to compare like with like, a brand new facility somewhere and expansion of the existing facility with a renovation to bring it up to our current standards, and then we can speak knowledgeably about the decision.
Yeah, I agree with you, Councillor Barkwell. I just needed to know what the difference between the 50 and the 83 potentially anyways were. So that's good. Councillor Carlson.
Just a quick question about the potential of an expansion on the school district site. I guess that's the first question, whether there's room and whether the school district is willing to, even before we go and invest money in finding out, we need to find out if it's even a possibility, correct?
Yeah, that would be part of the process, is engagement with School District 67 as far as what they're willing to work with us on as far as the scope of the build.
Okay, thank you. I think it's important that people have that understanding that we don't own that parcel of land. So it is still a collaboration if we're going to continue using that for the next 20, 30, 50 years.
CAO?
Well, thank you, Madam Mayor. I was just going to sort of make the point, I think that Councillor Carlson's making, that's why we're calling it the fit and feasibility, because if it fits, but the school district isn't interested in it being in that location, then it's no longer feasible. So there's sort of many levers and sort of dials we're turning here, and some of those conversations will ultimately determine what is feasible and fits in which location.
Councillor Barkwell, did you have another question or comment? No. Okay. So in all of this discussion, it seems to be a fairly clear recommendation or motion that's come forward. Have you been able to capture something, Karen, or maybe Councillor Patton would like to bring something forward?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. You have a lot of faith in me, but I have more faith in Karen.
Okay, Karen, were you able to get something out of all of this back and forthing and all arounding?
I think so, Your Worship. So I was just wondering, Lori, I guess, do we want to include that recommendation about engaging a consulting team to complete the study for a new facility, but add to that, and that council directs staff to include an updated condition report for the cost of upgrading the existing building and or expansion?
I wonder if we want to add that within the feasibility and site fit study, we included in the scope of work is to explore the feasibility of an expansion of the existing facility to include the components that we're asking in the new build. And I believe that's what I heard, but I would like council's clarification on that. So like for like is what I heard. So what does it cost to build new? And that would be a feasibility study done and site fit on the two sites, as well as a feasibility study for the expansion of the same components.
Does that, I see a couple of heads nodding. Was that your intention, Councillor Patton? Does that capture that?
Yes, I think it does, Madam Mayor. I think that way we'll get a good picture of what it could cost us to renovate and expand, or if it's more expensive, then the cost that what a new construction would come into play.
Okay. So, Councillor Barkwell, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I think that the motion as our Director of Corporate Services read included the simply renovating, and I don't think that's a consideration for us. We're all agreed that we're looking at expansion only, so we don't need that part. We just need the, as I said, the like for like, and included in the motion.
I think the component of renovation, oh, sorry, Madam Mayor, if I may.
No, yes, of course.
I think the component of renovation has to be in there because you can't use an old structure without calling it a renovation. Like for like, yes, we'll be looking, but we have to also look at utilizing the existing structure to some extent, and which would fall into the renovation component of it.
Councillor Barkwell?
Yeah, I just meant that renovation without expansion. It sounded like that was in the motion. Obviously, renovation with expansion is what we're talking about. That's all.
I agree. Renovation with expansion, Madam Mayor.
Yeah, so we're comparing apples to apples. Karen, could I have you reread that, please?
Absolutely, Madam Mayor. So that council directs staff to implement a request for proposals process to engage a consulting team to complete a feasibility and size fit study for a new aquatics and recreation facility, and that council directs staff to include in the feasibility and site fit study in their scope of work, the feasibility of renovating and expanding the existing facility to include the components of the core program for an aquatics and recreation facility.
That sounds good, Council. Yes.
Yes.
Good. That's good. You have a question, Lori?
I just want to clarify, do we want to include the enhancements in that as well? So,
with the gym and things that, yes.
So it is truly like for like.
Mm-hmm.
Childcare and the gymnasium as a potential phased in.
Yeah, so the core program plus the enhancements. That's a good point.
And so to include the components of the core program and enhancements as determined by council for an aquatics and recreation facility. Okay.
Councillor Patton, you are making that motion, and Councillor Barkwell, you're seconding? I don't want to assume anything. That's good? Okay. Any further discussion on this? I just want to ask one question of you, Lori. I'm not sure when or how this is done, but could we also have some indication when we get, when the RFPs come back and we get the final report, something that speaks to the potential, I guess, for lost revenue during the, like, if it's a replacement, then it kind of, if it's a renovation and larger, then that implies that it will be on the same site. And I'd like to have information about the potential loss of revenue for that compared to having it on another site. Does that make sense? Because if you're renovating and building on, I would think that there's not going to be too much action in there in terms of revenue generation, which is already fairly heavily subsidized.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So you are referring to the downtime while construction is taking place. You want to know what loss of revenue would happen during that period of time?
Yes. Thank you. Councillor Barkwell.
Isn't the question more how much money we would save while we're not operating the pool? As you said, there's revenue and there are expenses. So basically,
Well,
it's how long the pool won't be available for.
If you're looking at that, then how do you value the level of service when it's gone down to zero? You know?
Yeah. Well, like I say, how long will it not be there? And the disruption could be the tipping factor. You're right.
Yep.
Madam Mayor, if I may, we can look at the loss of service as well.
Thank you. I'm not sure how you evaluate that or put a valuation on it, but it's not for me to determine. Great. Okay, any further discussion or comments or what you'd like to see in this? Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor? Any opposed? Great, thank you. Good discussion, Council. And we actually are not quite finished with this presentation. Oh, Karen, you had your hand up?
Oh, that's there is one more recommendation in the report, Madam Mayor. Yeah.
Yes. So do we get to that now, or we go through the rest of the presentation first? And then you're talking about the interior health piece, the primary health care center piece?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, Lori, carry on.
3 more slides, we're almost done. So on to Indigenous engagement. Through the community engagement process, the consultants and staff had a meeting with the Penticton Indian Band to gain input into the needs assessment report. It was noted by the Penticton Indian Band representative that the District of Summerland may want to consider further engagement with the band elders to gain input into how the new facility could incorporate the local history into the building through arts, history, and storytelling. Staff are seeking council input whether to allocate funds of approximately $5,000 to $10,000 for further engagement with the Penticton Indian Band. The Natural Resource Department Director indicated that he could provide engagement opportunities within this budget to lead a process including workshops with elders to gather relevant information and to provide a report to the district on how local Indigenous art and history could be included. More details around these opportunities were requested, but unfortunately I haven't received that yet. But I wanted to put that out to council to see if that was something you would like staff to do.
Councillor Van Elfen and then Carlson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think it's extremely valuable that we engage the PIB, but is that not something that we could do here on our own once we had, closer to some type of artist rendition of what this building may look like? Could we not invite the Penticton Indian Band representatives to come and meet with us in the council chamber, and then we could get, their input, but to just say $5,000 to $10,000 seems like a lot of money that I think we could do on our own, Madam Mayor, to invite them to come and ask them for their input. Just a thought.
Councillor Carlson and then Trainer.
I think that we should embrace the opportunity and the conversation that has begun and make a budget item. Whether that is something we can make right now or not, I don't know, but I do think that it's very important.
Councillor Trainer.
Can you guys hear me okay? Yeah, okay. I absolutely 100% support this. I think that we do need to put a budget towards it because that shows that we actually really care and we want to engage. And I think that having the option to have a bit of funding there is, sorry, my little boy is right here. But I think that this is a really good idea, and 5,000 to 10,000 is not that much to do engagement with them. This is a really important project, and I want to make sure that our engagement with them is done properly.
Any other thoughts? Councillor Patton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I know when we, back a year ago, when we were talking about this, we also talked about talking with the PIB in regards to investing some money into the facility. Has that gone any farther? Have we heard anything from PIB, whether, you know, that is on their radar? Or I agree with Councillor Van Elpen, and when we talked to when Chief Chad was at City Hall when we were meeting, that was one of the things that they stressed to us was to actually invite them, have coffee, discuss around table on this type of stuff. So I kind of agree with Councillor Van Elpen, and on the other hand, I'm just kind of wondering if as far as investment into it, if the PIB was engaged with us in regards to the pool.
Can you speak to that at all, Lori? I
am not aware of any financial ask of the Penticton Indian Band for capital investment dollars into this project. However, that may have happened before or outside of the conversation circles that I have been in. So no, there is no commitment at this time.
No, I don't recall that either. I know that we got a letter of support for the work, but I'm not aware of that. Councillor Holmes and then Councillor Carlson.
Yeah, I was just wondering how would this 5,000 to 10,000 money be spent on? Would it be spent on a consultant or how?
No.
What's the money for?
Through Madam Mayor to Councillor Holmes, my understanding is that the staff with the Penticton Indian Band would lead that engagement process. They have those relationships with the elders in their community, and they would take a lead role in gathering the information on our behalf and then come back as a representative to us with that information. So that the funds would go towards having traditional workshops on their lands with their members.
Okay, so to follow up, if I may, so I can see some value in that. I would, but I wonder if just having the narrow focus on the rec center, if that's too narrow of a focus. I mean, I think we could get a lot of benefit. You know, we're talking about interpretation of signs in our parks and whatnot as well. I mean, it's kind of it could almost should be something bigger than just the rec center, no?
Councillor Carlson?
Councillor Holmes just said what I was going to suggest. I think that having, we keep on talking about having this engagement, having a conversation. It doesn't have to be just about the rec center. It needs to begin somewhere. The information we gather isn't going to be about the rec center. It's going to be about the history of this land and this community that we call Summerland, that they don't call Summerland. And I think that there's a lot of people that be very interested in the outcome of a conversation. If this is our chance to start that conversation, I think we should embrace it right now. Just to follow up on that, we've been trying for at least 6 years to have some conversations. And I think if there's a opportunity, let's go.
I couldn't can support you more strongly, Councillor Carlson. I think that we need to. We did get a start, but we need to continue on with that. And I think that with a new chief and council there, and the fact that, I mean, I think we should feel, well, personally anyways, I'm excited and feel honored that they would reach out to us and offer the wisdom and the cultural history of their elders and present that to us. I would like to engage with us on that because, you know, back last year, that was exactly what Angelique came forward with us with. And we had that discussion about we don't know what we don't know. And this is a fantastic opportunity to learn that and learn it as a council, but also learn it as a community. I don't think that $5,000 to $10,000 to cover that and to cover the honorariums is out of line in any fashion. So, does somebody want to bring forward a recommendation on this piece? Is that what you're looking for, Lori? Are you looking for a decision or?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that would mean, oh, I see that Dave is still here. Are you actually still here, Dave?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I am.
Oh, so you've heard this discussion then?
I have.
Could you give us a finance perspective?
From a finance perspective, Madam Mayor, the current 2021 operational budget does not have any funds specifically allocated to such a process. However, there are little pockets. We do have monies established in the Economic Development Fund that could potentially be looked at being used. There are grants from time to time that come available to have those interactions. They also come available at times. So there are some avenues that we could look at from a funding perspective.
Yes. So are you referring to the community to community UBCM funding?
Yes, Madam Mayor.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And this is, you know, it's government to government. So that would be great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Would anybody like to bring this forward? Councillor Trainer.
Yeah, I'll bring forward the motion that we allocate $5,000 to $10,000 for further Penticton Indian Band engagement for our new Aquatic Center project, something like that. Karen can word it better than I can.
Hi, Madam Mayor and Council. So that Council directs staff to begin engagement with the Penticton Indian Band on the new aquatic, new recreation facility project.
Graham.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd recommend we do pick a number for Dave's planning purposes and for putting a line item in the budget. So perhaps we use the number 10,000, and then of course, if we use less, that's great.
I'd also like to see it the resolution being less focused on the recreation center and more on, the cultural opportunity for council and potentially for the community as well. I don't know. What is your thought on that, Councillor Trainer? You brought it forward.
Yeah, no, I agree, but I do think that we should mention the Aquatic Center just because that's one of the goals of the engagement. Obviously, there's a bigger picture as well, but I think it would be worthwhile to mention that specifically because that is one of the intents of, yes, of spending up to $10,000 on this. So maybe we can somehow incorporate both.
Oops, sorry. Thank you, Councillor Carlson. I'll give Karen a couple of minutes to refashion that. I don't think it's been seconded yet.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the council directs staff to begin engagement with the Penticton Indian Band on the cultural opportunities with the new Summerland Community Recreation and Health Center project to a maximum of $10,000.
How's that, Councillor Trainer?
Sure, that's okay with me. Do we want to add any broader cultural I don't know, to make it a bit broader? I'm okay with the way it is right now, but I know I agree with what you said. So if we want to add something to make it a bit bigger, I'd be okay with that as well.
Councillor Carlson and Councillor Holmes, you both spoke to that. How are you feeling about the way it's worded? Did you want to see?
Well, I think if we're going to connect it to this project, then it's worded well.
Okay.
If we're going to, maybe we start here and then we can expand upon that in 2022 or beyond. Yeah,
starting somewhere. Good, thank you.
I think that's a good idea.
Oh, Karen.
I can simply add the words on the cultural opportunities, including with the new Summerland Community Recreation and Health Center facility project.
Great. Councillor Carlson is seconding. Thank you. Further discussion on this? Sorry if I'm rushing, it's 5 o'clock. Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? Okay, that carries unanimously. Thank you. Actually, Lori, before you start again, Karen, do we have to have another motion come forward to extend the meeting a little bit longer, or?
Madam Mayor, I would suggest not a bad idea because I'm not sure where we're going to get to.
Okay, Councillor Holmes?
I thought I was being generous saying 5 o'clock. So do we just want to finish the rec center and then take a break till 6? Is that the idea? Because we still have another agenda item.
Yes, we do. I think that Brad will be at our evening meeting anyways with the development variance permit. Is that correct, Graham?
Yeah, Brad, you can be present for that, right?
I don't think he's, oh.
He's there.
I don't see him.
Yeah, I am here, Madam Mayor.
Yeah, oh, there you are. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, I will be there tonight if council chooses to move that item to the night meeting. I will be present, although I do have Cal Micklejohn on the line as well. And I'm not too sure if he's available, but it doesn't matter. I should be able to handle a presentation from staff's perspective.
Okay, that's good to know. So Councillor Holmes then. Oh, yeah, Karen, you have your hand up again?
Oh, no, please go ahead.
Yes, Councillor Holmes, please.
Yeah, I do think we need a break. So if we can move 7, the cultural center to this evening, that'd be great. And so I don't know, 10 minutes. So I move that we extend this meeting for 10 more minutes.
till 5:15?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Seconder? Councillor Van Elfen? All in favor? Yeah, that's me too. Councillor Barkwell, are you in favor of extending for another few minutes? Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you, Councillor Holmes.
Am I back on, Madam Mayor? Okay, thank you. Just two quick slides. Funding opportunities. The staff report to council outlines the government's recent commitments to support childcare and some of the granting programs that they're rolling out. I have reached out to both programs to learn more about future application intakes and waiting to hear back on that. Staff will continue to monitor granting opportunities for childcare as well as recreation and healthcare facilities. The needs assessment consultants have noted the importance of having a comprehensive feasibility study to including grant applications, as well as the benefit of having a shovel-ready project. And that is actually the end of my presentation, and I have the original recommendation on the screen here, but I think Karen's got a few other council resolutions in there, and then we have the last resolution regarding the primary healthcare center component still outstanding.
So question, Karen, do we need to go through this and add the other ones again? Or can we just add the bottom one?
Madam Mayor, I think we still need to add the bottom one, but all the other ones have already been passed by council. The first one has been passed by council. The second one has been broken into several parts. And yes, so I think just the council consider the primary healthcare center component is the last resolution.
And then included in there with the new resolution was the $10,000 line item, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So it's just this last piece then, the and further that. Okay, thank you. Councillor Carlson?
I will move that council consider the primary healthcare center component at the February 22nd, 2021 council meeting.
Thank you. Seconder? Councillor Traynor? Any further discussion? All in favor? Great. Okay. Karen, thank you.
Madam Mayor, if I could recommend that that council defer the item 7.5 to the evening meeting. And there is someone on the line that has been there. So just then we can do the public comment opportunity and then adjourn the meeting right there.
Okay, and then we'll also defer the closed session.
Correct.
Yes, thank you. Okay, so I thank you so much for whomever is on the line at this point. I know that you'll introduce yourself. It is just after 5 and you've been waiting for I don't know how long. So thank you so much for staying with us. Please go ahead, introduce yourself and give us your civic address, please.
Hello.
Hello, we can hear you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Tony Boot. It's Allison Carlton calling. I'd like to address the perpetual slide, if I may.
Yes, please go ahead.
So we received the report from Golder, and looking at the boreholes 1 and 2, they are installed at the highest elevation and are the ones recording the most movement, although minimal. Borehole number 3, which was installed at a lower elevation, is showing little to no movement. And borehole number 4, which is closest to the golf course, is again little to no movement. Borehole 1 and 2 are at the higher elevation and the closest proximity to Canyon View Road. Although they're showing movement, it's very minimal, and it in no way correlates to the movement that we're seeing on Canyon View Road. So the sinking of the road, the sloughing of the road. So it begs the question, and that hasn't been addressed at all. What's causing Canyon View Road to be so impacted if there's very minimal movement down below? So what that's telling me is all the movement is at surface. So for me, I'm wanting to know why Canyon View Road is having such an impact if there's no movement down below. And in my mind, the logical explanation is the water line underneath the road. It's old, it's concrete, and it's leaking and breaking. And the soil in the area is straight sand. So if you have constant water flowing, even though it may not be a large hole, but just continual, it's straight sand. So that just displaces the sand at the surface, causing what we're seeing happening to Canyon View Road. So I guess that's my question is, whenever there is a break in the line, we're able to witness the repairing of it. And, most of the time, it's started with a pinhole that has been leaking for months on end, wearing a significant hole in the concrete pipe to where it gets so compromised that it actually blows out. So when you have sand and water running continually, in my mind, that's explaining the majority of the movement on the road. So I guess that's what I just wanted to address, that the report really hasn't explained why the road is moving so much if there's very minimal movement down below.
Thank you, Allison. Could I ask you, CAO, to speak to the proposal to realign the water main there?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Happy to do so, and good evening, Allison. We have now procured some engineering consultancy that will, over the next month, do some work for us to prepare design options that will either involve moving of the water main itself to a location at significant distance from the slide area, or in fact installing technology that may allow a flexible pipe to be installed there to avoid any movement to that pipe, which, as you know, could have contributed in the past to compromising the water main that's currently there. In any case, I do appreciate the theory you've put forward as to why the road might be having impact, and either design option we choose, we believe that upgrading that infrastructure will assist in avoiding any future impacts to that area.
Right. So it seems like quite a coincidence that the majority of the movement recorded by Golder, although minimal, is where the majority of the movement in the road is at a higher, it doesn't correlate to the amount of movement read by Golder, but the road is moving. So, if there's water main leakage, could that be contributing to the movement that they're reading on their boreholes? Because you go down below borehole number 3, I know you can't answer that, it's Golder's report, but you go to borehole number 3, which is at a lower elevation, which we call the gravel pit, down below Canyon View Road, and there's no movement there. But you get to a higher elevation, and that's where the movement is, in close proximity to Canyon View Road and the water line. I'm just wondering if that avenue has been explored.
Yeah, I do understand what you're saying. And I think over the next month, like I say, the additional engineering advice that we'll get will allow us to be in a good position to consider design options that will, in any case, remedy what might be an issue there, as you've identified. I mean, it's an interesting theory, but in any case, infrastructure upgrades and redesign are the purpose of, trying to fix anything that's going on in that area with respect to that.
I mean, an interesting theory, you may say, but, we've been a resident in the area for a number of years. We've witnessed a number of breaks. We witnessed the repairs of them, and we see the breaks that have happened. And it's a concrete pipe, as I said, and the majority of the time when there's a break, we can see there's been a pinhole in the concrete pipe that has been running for months and months on end to get to a diameter enough that the water volume going through then compromises the pipe. So it's the water, when a break happens, it's not that, oh, gee, the water line broke. It's been leaking for months on end, and then the pipe gets so compromised it blows out, and that's when it's discovered. It's straight sand up there. No water's ever going to boil up. The path of least resistance is straight down, and it's not discovered, and we've witnessed it.
Allison, I'm just going to interrupt you now. I appreciate you staying on the line for so long and registering your comments with us. The CAO has come forward with some. I really hope that you're able to take part in the meeting and listen to what comes out in the work that is being done in terms of the potential design options for realigning or changing the water main that's there. I know that it is a huge concern for you and your neighbors, and you and Dave. So again, I appreciate you being a part of this conversation today. We must end our meeting in 1 minute. So
can I just say one more thing? It'll be quick. Our concern is that the water line leaking is causing the majority of the reporting. As I said, those boreholes are in close proximity to the water line where the road is sloughing and it's all at surface. They're imposing a setback on properties, putting it to the slide where we're thinking it could be a lot to do with the water line. That has huge impacts on us.
Yes, and I appreciate that. And I see that Graham Statt, our CAO, is making note of this, and it will be brought forward to his works in the infrastructure team.
Thank you. I appreciate you taking my call.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, Council, 5:15 on the nose. Motion to adjourn. Oh, sorry, not to adjourn. So to defer. I have to think of the right word. Councillor Van Alphen, Councillor Trainer, all in favor?